Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Portland Trail Blazers, they're on the road. They're in Oklahoma City taking on the Thunder. Jeremy Grant and Denny Avdia are game time decisions, both still dealing with some injuries. Right now, OKC is favored by 2.5. Tip-off for that game is at 5. A couple other big games in the NBA. Grizzlies traveling to Dallas to take on the injury-riddled Mavericks. Memphis is currently favored by 10.5. Phoenix is traveling to Denver to take on the Nuggets. The Suns need to turn their season around if they want any hope of making it into the play-in game, let alone the playoffs. Currently, they are 4 games under 500. Denver is favored by 7.5 in that one. In the NFL, the Seahawks are exploring several trade options for wide receiver DK Metcalf after Metcalf requested a trade earlier this week. GM John Schneider has not ruled out the possibility of DK returning to the team this season, though. He is still under contract through 2025. Over in college basketball, the Portland Pilots play their first game of the WCC tournament tonight in Las Vegas against Pepperdine. The Pilots are favored by 1.5, tip-off scheduled for 6. You can listen to that game on 910 ESPN Portland, starting with the pregame show at 5:30. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The ultimate basketball party, Fan Madness, is back. March 20th and 21st at the Stadium Sports Bar. And 1080.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
The Fan.
Danny Meringue here. No Dusty Hara. Will Ortner in for Rusty. Everyone's just running away because the sun is out. It's a nice day. Fake Spring 3, Fake Spring 4, something along those lines. I think is where we've arrived now, Will Ortner.
I thought it was 1. Or
no,
2.
It's at least 2.
You're
it's
right.
At least 2. It might be 3.
Last Friday, well, you know how I know it's officially like fake spring season? I start turning on country music. Or my buddies start texting me about which country artists I need to start checking out.
That's a stark difference between you and I because I never turn on country music.
You're missing out, dude. There's some good stuff out there.
Look, I down in this vein, I am not anti-country in the sense of like, oh, it's so awful. It's just
well,
not.
Yeah, you fought for it. Yeah,
it's just not for me. Look, there are individual songs that I can get down with.
Yeah, you don't have any artists where you're like, yeah, that guy. Because like, I'm not a big metal person, but like, if Metallica or Iron Maiden pops on, like, I'm gonna be good.
Oh yeah, no, like, look. You know, the classics, like the Garths of the world and stuff like that, it's just not really my jam. Don't get me wrong, I got some Thunder Rolls in the playlist. You know.
Thunder Rolls, that's good stuff.
But hey, it's there, but when it comes on the Spotify, so I think I've mentioned this before. I've got a Spotify list that, so I'm very organized with my music. Like I've got all of my different playlists, but I have one playlist that is my liked songs. It is 1,876 songs.
Oh my God. That's so many.
The reason that it is that way is that sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I want to listen to.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm like, let's see what this is. Let's see what we got going here. And sometimes little Kane Brown comes on. I'm okay with it. And I've heard some people like, Kane Brown's not country. I'm like, yeah, that's why I like it.
It's like, it's country adjacent. There's a new like pop country sound.
Which is more my jam because here's the thing.
For sure.
I'm as much as I love like an orchestra in metal, like Metallica's S&M album where they did it with the San Francisco Philharmonic.
Okay.
One of my favorite albums of all time, like blending just this insane level of musical talent all together in this fusion.
Yeah.
It's just, damn, that's good. And I love like when you add a violin to some rock or some metal, just like a little pop. Hell, a little Kendrick, add some horns, you know, a little sprinkle here or there. You throw a fiddle into country, I'm out.
Really?
I'm out. Unless
a fiddle in country is good stuff, dude.
Look, unless it's
you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band.
Look,
Danny.
unless it's Devil Goes Down to Georgia, I'm out. It's just more often than not, man. I'm just now when they go less fiddle and more violin
Mm-hmm.
in the country, a little slower, a little.
Yeah.
Then you can like, all right,
Then you can
all right,
get wrapped into it.
You're reeling me back in a little bit, all right. But the fiddle, it's a touchy thing for me.
Interesting. I love the fiddle. Like if the fiddle gets brought in, I'm all about it. The other one, if done correctly, bagpipes.
Yeah, the squeezing cats are not my thing.
If you can get me with like the drop kick Murphys,
yeah, see the ska.
I'm jumping in.
I
Like,
was
let's
never
go.
a ska guy.
I'm not a ska guy either. By the fact of I don't know what ska is, but
Any of like that whole era,
I'll
of
jump
the
is that-
Dropkick Murphys, the NoFX.
See, Dropkick Murphys has like. Let's be honest. There's one song that I listen.
Okay, that's fair.
No, two. I listen to their Christmas song.
Like I mentioned this the other day, like talking about like the fusion of music. I know I'm late to the deal here, but you know what Sleep Token is?
No.
New rock band that has a Slipknot vibe in that they all wear masks and you don't know who they are. And I kind of like the theater of it all.
Okay.
Yeah, like-
You're a pomp and circumstance
It's
guy.
look, for a long time nobody knew who Corey Taylor was.
It's so much so that I don't know who Corey Taylor is. That's the Slipknot guy?
Good Lord, man. How you don't know who Corey Taylor is?
Well, I know who Slipknot is.
The lead singer of Slipknot and good Lord. Now you just stunned me so much that I'm forgetting one of my favorite bands like
Well, I know like what Slipknot is. I feel like everyone knows what Slipknot is. But I don't know that I would know
Stone
that-
Sour.
I don't know that I would know the individual like band members.
Yeah, Corey Taylor's pretty freaking popular, dude.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying like if I know who you are and you're in a genre that I'm not going to listen to a ton, like you're probably pretty popular. And I know who the band is. I just don't know that I know who he is individually. Like I couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
If you heard his voice, you probably could. Now you may be seeing him, unless he had his Slipknot
Right.
mask on. But Sleep Token's a band that does like the very much like masked up, like nobody knows who they are kind of a deal. Like that was like kind of fed into like what made Slipknot is like you didn't know who these lunatics were.
Mm.
You know, like the
That was kind of the allure of it all.
part of it. Yeah, it was like you're like, oh, these guys must be loners and da da da. It's like, you know, that angsty stuff that it really drew on.
Yeah, teenage.
What's really fun now is to watch the Gen Alpha, Gen Z folks like,
I'm Gen Z.
well, yeah, like who've never heard a Slipknot song, like watch a Slipknot music video and they're like, oh, or Korn, and they're like, what is happening
Like,
here?
what's going on here? Would
I'm
you
like-
throw 9 Inch Nails in
Oh,
there?
100%.
as well?
Yeah, Trent Reznor, absolutely.
See, now I know who that guy is. I don't listen to any 9 Inch
Trent-
Nails, but I know who that guy
Well-
is because I know he's important.
He is very important.
He's a big score guy,
yes,
isn't he?
He's a producer, arranger. Like look, even if you don't like his music or stuff he's done,
Right.
he's a musical genius.
He's very influential,
Yes.
is my understanding
Yes.
of what he's got going on.
Corey Taylor's probably in that same vein though too, as a singer songwriter. Like
Is he really?
He's got one of the best like rock voices. That's what you think about guys like him, Chester Bennington, Scott Weiland.
Chester Bennington that's top tier stuff. It doesn't get much better than Chester Bennington.
Basically, all of the guys. It's actually funny that Taylor and Reznor are still around, but basically all of the guys, Chris Cornell, that unalived themselves or OD'd, like that whole group of singers is like the amount of influence that they had on music in general over
Right.
2 decades was massive, right? But yeah, no, coming full circle, the fiddle, it's just I try and it's like unless Charlie Daniels is fighting the devil, I'm
No,
out.
You're not about it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is because like I grew up. I played seven different instruments in my life.
Yeah.
like I played the violin.
Yeah.
So I have like a respect for it, but it same with the bagpipes. Like this, I mean, this should come as no surprise. There's a TikTok account of a hot who plays bagpipes, and she does metal covers on
Oh,
bagpipes.
yeah?
She did Avenged Sevenfold. I saw this scrolling through the other day. My TikTok is mostly just sports and like musicians doing dope stuff.
Mm.
Like I'm like, okay, no, I'm down with this.
It's similar to my Instagram, however, it's hots and weightlifting.
There you go. Yeah, but it's like,
Or weightlifting hots.
but yeah, there's certainly like once you like click like on the one hot like playing the bagpipes, now all of a sudden my algorithm is starting to skew towards, oh, here's a hot drummer. Oh, here's a hot guitar player. Oh, here's a hot bagpiper. Okay, let's see where this goes.
Just wait until you get into the fiddle. You might be back in.
Look, there's one of those too.
I know there's hot fiddlers out there.
There's a woman. She's a redhead. She is she does like her own like shows. Like she's the centerpiece of the show.
Yeah.
I think she's Irish or something like that. But she plays the violin, and she'll do covers of stuff, and it's just stunning stuff. And
There's
just
some
like,
crazy stuff out there.
look, I don't love social media, but the one thing that I do appreciate about it is giving these people that have absurd talent
Yeah.
a platform.
Yeah, the
And-
lady with whatever you call that, the like Chinese
The-
version
the
of the
Japanese
guitar, or
with-
Japanese version of the
she's-
guitar.
she's playing
and
it
she's
with-
playing
All sorts of metal.
Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
The Welcome to the Jungle one is unbelievable. It's like, how
It's
do
like-
you learn that you have that talent?
It was like there's 3 strings on that thing. How are you doing this?
It's unbelievable.
A guy who was incredibly popular on YouTube. Did you know the Do?
The Do.
Have you ever seen him?
Only his brother Mountain.
Oh god. He's a guy who you never see his face. Never see his face, just his body and a guitar.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he did it like do you ever like Omegle?
Yeah,
So-
I'm well versed in that.
That's a craven pit of despair. But he would just take random in between the dudes wanking it on every channel. Apparently, I thank God I never ever went down any. I'm like
I never saw it.
As soon as I heard like what goes on there, I'm like, nope, I'm out. But he
That
like
can kick.
for people that don't know what this is, it was like a live like Twitch stream between 2 people. And it would just be random, and it would be like you would have some common interests.
Mhm.
And this guy would just take song requests. And he's got perfect pitch while also being an unbelievable guitar player.
Hmm.
I mean, like top in the world talent that you can't fathom, right?
Mhm.
So somebody requests a song and he'd be like, oh, I've never heard that. Do you mind if I listen to it real quick? Grab his cell phone, pop it in Spotify, listen to it real quick, and then freestyle it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, I suck. Like I've played guitar for 23 years.
Yeah.
I could play for another 23 years and not be half as good as him.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's just another level to this stuff that you just go, boy, that's disheartening.
Yeah, well, they always like. There's a couple musicians like that. I mean, it's the difference between a special basketball player and like a normal, really good basketball player or baseball, football, whatever. Throw in the sport that you like. The one that always blows my mind are, and this is gonna be a Gen Z thing, probably specifically only, but the stories about like Juice World or the stories about like Jay-Z back in the day, or
Oh, you mean
Biggie.
Jay-Z being a one-take guy?
Yeah, so Biggie and Jay-Z, like Biggie was so scared of other rappers taking his songs and doing them themselves or stealing his stuff. He did everything off the dome. Like he just remembered everything the way he wanted to do it, and like the way that he would rhyme inside of the different lyrics. Like he'd do it earlier and then he'd do it later, and it would all meet back. He's the one who kind of like taught Jay-Z how to do that. He did it himself that way. And then with Juice WRLD, the one that's crazy for him is always like he would just listen to the beat, and then he'd record like 4 different versions of that song, and then he'd let the producer pick which one was the best one, and then he'd release it. It's why he has like 3 albums after he passed away.
Yeah, because he's just cranking out content. Look,
When they had it
Yes.
forever.
Blows
my mind.
Look,
Blows my mind.
he's an absolute dog crap human, Kanye. Have you ever seen the behind the music thing that they do with him and Jamie Foxx, or you've heard Jamie Foxx tell about the story that
Where the gold digger?
it wasn't Gold Digger, it was the one where Jamie it was Jamie's song.
Oh,
it
Get You
was-
Feeling Loose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like
know
when
exactly
his
what
hit-
you're talking about. Yeah.
So he didn't know who Kanye was.
Yes.
Kanye shows up at a party with his literal beatbox.
Right.
And Jamie Foxx, the way he tells it, is like, yeah, this weird, awkward, bald dude just kind of walks in. He's like, yeah, man, let's let's go down to the studio. And he lays down this track and he just freestyles over it. And almost the whole freestyle ends up being the song.
Right.
And he goes, hey, Jamie, this is what you need to do, man. Like, he sounds like Hustle and Flow in the video. Like, it's like, well, why do you sound like that? It's weird. But he goes, I need you to harmonize like this, 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 and this. And he goes, and Jamie's like, no, I want to. Goes, no, you want to do this? You want to do this the right way.
Right.
And he does it Kanye's way, and that album ends up having like 6 platinum singles on it.
Right.
And you're like, and he just did it on the spot.
Right. Like, where do you get that ear? Where do you get that attention to detail? Because, again, a lot of those guys aren't even, like, necessarily, like, classical trained.
No. The dude that did all of 50 Cent's album, Scott Torch.
Yeah.
That dude is like, if you look at him, he looks like he's cast out of Jersey Shore.
Yes.
Just you're just like, this guy can't be anything. And you see him sit down at a piano, and you're like, oh, you basically made every hip-hop album for 30 years.
Like,
my bad.
Like, you're sick. Rick Rubin always makes me think that, too. He's huge in all of the rap, like, industry, and then you see this guy, and you're like...
This skinny, bald, white dude, and you're just like...
With a huge beard. Like, he doesn't look like he looks...
You look like you've never listened to hip-hop in your life.
If you told me that was a band member from ZZ Top, I'd be like, yes.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
I should go get his autograph.
Yeah,
That
he's
cool.
a roadie for, like, a Metallica cover band.
Yeah. You're telling me that he is in the cover band Dan Halen instead of Van Halen.
Yes.
Like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
But
And
instead, he's like
oh,
one of the most influential guys in hip-hop over the past 30 years.
unbelievable.
And you're like, it doesn't make any sense. Fan text line, couldn't agree with you more, Danny. Add a symphony to rock and I'm in. Add a fiddle and I'm out. Used to be the same for harmonica too. I will push back on the harmonica because John Popper existed.
You like harmonica?
Brother, have you ever seen the live event with Blues Traveler with Howard Stern?
No.
So John Popper looked a lot like John Candy.
Oh, big guy.
Very large man, right? And he had this incredibly unique... Have you ever heard Blues Traveler?
No.
Oh, God.
No, I'm missing out. I'll tell you what, and this goes off onto another tangent. I didn't respect Bob Dylan enough until watching the Timothée Chalamet movie, A Complete Unknown. Not because, like, I just hadn't really been open to him.
Look, I'm not a Bob Dylan guy, so I'm with you. Like, I know who he is, and I know his catalog, but...
See, I didn't even know the catalog. I was like, oh, a lot
you
of
did
people...
once you heard it, though, right?
100%.
You're like, oh, that's Bob Dylan?
I was like, I had no idea that was Bob Dylan. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. I didn't know the harmonica thing where he uses it a lot in his stuff. I'm very pro Bob Dylan lately.
Okay.
Because of that. And so that would be how that's the best I'm going to equate to Blues Traveler. Also, Blues Traveler, like, I've obviously heard of it. I'm aware of its existence. I'm not entirely sure if it's like a concert, if it's a song, if it's a album.
It's a band.
It's a band.
So
okay.
Blues Traveler is a band. John Popper was the front man, but he also he had a like that was the cadence that he would sing at. It was very staccato and poppy, but it was incredible. Like, his breath control was so out of this world. He would go from singing this fast, very clear staccato rhythmic singing into a harmonica solo that was like 2 minutes long.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And then without missing a beat, go right back into singing.
That's crazy.
And you're like, how does this like 6'4", 350-pound man oh no, he's a big dude.
But that's how by being that big, that size.
It was just I'd heard all this, like I had the Blues Traveler album when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And it didn't always get put in the rotation. Every now and then it would make it into the 10-disc player in the back of the Blazer. Yeah, that's right. We had to get out of our car or have somebody crawl into the back to get into the disc. That's when you knew you had a nice sound system.
You did.
Yeah, you had the deck in the front, but you had the 6 and the 10-disc changer in the back.
Nice.
I had that, and of course, I had the two 10-inch subwoofers screwed into the floor that just rattled the living hell out of everything.
The whole way.
Oh, the buzz was just out of this world. Here we go. If there's a ukulele on a track, it's almost an instant skip.
There's a couple that I like with ukulele.
I'm a guitar player, but the uke makes my ears bleed. The only time it's allowed is Polynesian Christmas music.
Oh, I see. I think Somewhere Over the Rainbow. But Polynesian music,
That's where it lives, and it has a certain space that you can go into. And
There's
you're
a
like,
spot for everything.
there again, going full circle to TikTok, there was a guy in a coffee shop in Hawaii playing Modest Yahoo on his ukulele. Modest Yahoo was standing there, and he had shaved his beard, but I was trying to give
Hair.
him the right. It's not traditional. God, it's tied to the Jewish faith, and I'm totally forgetting what.
Yarmulke?
No. It's a particular type of Judaism. No, of Judaism. You see him walking down.
Orthodox?
Thank you, God. I could not think of the word Orthodox.
Yeah.
Orthodox Jews. So he had the curls and the beard and everything else. He has since gone away from that. So
Right.
all you see is this big, tall, lanky white dude, and he's jamming along with him, and he's singing it, and the guy just like he keeps playing it, but he's like, this guy sounds really good. He sounds really familiar here. Like, what's going on here? And he gets done. He's like, you did great, man. You did great. Thank you. He's like, you sound familiar. He's like, yeah, it's my song you were just playing.
That'd be so cool.
And the dude just lit up, but on a ukulele.
Right.
So there you go. We managed to go that far without mentioning sports one time.
What a segment.
What a segment, right?
What a segment.
It's a gift. Well, let's get to the sports world and the way the sports world is being covered. This is a little bit of a traditional turn away from how we start the show because we usually have a big story, but I thought this was a really interesting story. Last night, I get home, turn on NBA on TNT, and Charles Barkley, the round mound of rebound, took the ball off the rim in transition and dunked it on Kendrick Perkins' head over and over and over again on a wonderful, wonderful rant. We'll get to that here next, coming on Dan and Dusty, Today the Fan.
Prime time only.
Look, when you're talking about the coverage of the NBA, I went in on this pretty hard on Rip City Wrap Up a couple nights ago. Just the state of the NBA, particularly its big-time media partners and the folks at the four-letter at ESPN. I don't like Kendrick Perkins at all. I've yet to find somebody who thinks he brings value to the discussion. And the other day, he kind of stirred this up, and this is what ESPN does. But let's just say, this is what ESPN does for basketball coverage. He said that the Lakers are saving the NBA. And I don't care about the Laker coverage stuff. It is what it is. They're always going to get more. But the idea that Luka going to the Lakers and the Lakers are saving basketball is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. The idea that Luka Doncic in Dallas, throwing that team on his back and performing the way that he did last season, all the way up to the NBA Finals, is somehow lesser or cheapened because he did it in Dallas as opposed to Los Angeles, is about the dumbest thing I've heard as it pertains to like how we discuss and dive into the game. And Charles Barkley has been doing this for a long time, not only as a player, but as a commentator. And you can say Chuck gets dumb about stuff, and he does. He does. It is what it is. But the idea that you have to devolve every discussion down to the lowest common denominator is such a taxing and frustrating point. And you just sit there and you go, what the hell, man? And Barkley just goes off calling, not by name, but everybody knew who he was talking about. Kendrick Perkins, an idiot and a fool, but he knows who he is. I'm sorry. He actually, at first he didn't, and then he said Kendrick Perkins by name. He goes, this is the quote. He said the Lakers. First of all, the Lakers have had 2 great weeks. He said the Lakers have saved the NBA season. That's because them fools on the other network, which Barkley then acknowledged, which we're going to be working for next year. That's all they talk about. Let me tell you all something. First of all, I want all the smoke. I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard or anything like that. He's like, why are we not talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers who have won 12 straight games? Or the Oklahoma City Thunder and how great they have been. Hilariously, 2 teams that Kendrick Perkins played for. He goes, hey, man, the Lakers are doing great. Got a long way to go. But the reason the season's been going great, the Cavs and the Thunder, y'all just want to talk about the Warriors and the Lakers, and they're both doing great. Don't get me wrong. If I turn out to be wrong, I got no problem with that. But y'all are idiots because y'all talk about the Lakers and the Warriors all the time. The Cavs have won 12 straight games. Oklahoma City got the MVP and are on fire, and you're all talking about who's in second place. That's the reason I get pissed. The Lakers are doing great. I don't mind being wrong. The Warriors are doing great, but that's because you fools on the other network, which we're going to become fools next year when we're going to be working on the network. But OKC and the Cavs have been balling for 6 months, and y'all talk about teams that had 2 great weeks. It's frustrating. It's so frustrating. And obviously, we talk about the Portland Trailblazers here, but I always try to talk about the NBA at large and the big stories that come out of everything else. And like yesterday, I want to make sure that we gave Shaedon Sharpe his flowers, his progression, because that matters. It matters to talk about something other than how are the Blazers doing? Where are they stand with Cooper Flagg? It's like you can talk about things that matter. And it's one of those things like, well, the basketball is different than the NFL. And yet, a game that happens once a week, they can find something to talk about that makes you smarter or makes you think about it differently across not only ESPN, but CBS and NBC and Fox and every other freaking network, as well as a million different independent outlets, whether it's the 33rd team, whether it's the PFF, like all these companies that started off as like passion projects that are now quite literally becoming privatized because they're so good that NFL teams and leagues and media partners are buying them up.
Right. I think the difference with the NBA coverage is it lends itself more to the lowest common denominator when it comes to those arguments, because when you have games that are constantly happening, you can easily just touch on the broad picture because you're going to have that next game within a couple of days, which you would think it would lead to the antithesis of that, of having to dive into the deep stuff all the dang time. And then at the very end, you could dive into or talk about, well, where does this, after this season, where does it rank for LeBron's legacy? Where does it rank for Steph's legacy? Whatever. Where like in the NFL, it's almost like because there's so much time in between, you have to have those nuanced conversations, those conversations where you get into, the minute little details. Hey, why was Spags able to get McDuffie free and get him in on Josh Allen? Was that Josh Allen's fault? Was it the offensive line's fault? Was it more Spags than, what was going on with Brady there in the battle of the DC versus the OC? So I almost wonder if because there's so much time to chew on that bone, it leads to getting more of, that minute details out in the open and those conversations being out in the open. The other thing that I wonder too with the NBA, doesn't it feel like the NBA kind of hates itself? Like it promotes voices that they hate each other. Draymond Green is a player in the NBA right now, and you put him on the TNT platform. You put him on the biggest platform for you in All-Star Weekend, or at least the biggest platform that you can have once football is completely done, and all he does is dump on the product.
Which we will get to later in the show because he said something incredibly out of pocket about Karl Anthony Towns.
And
he's not even going to apologize for it.
His non-apology about it was horrible. Like, mistakes happen. We have both said things, I'm sure, on air where, hey, this is what I thought. New information was brought to me, and so then I changed my opinion, or I apologize for my previous opinion because it was wrong.
I'm gonna share something here that I've never said publicly. During the Miami Heat stuff, that back and forth, I said something on the show because I was getting aggregated in Miami like crazy. And this is what happens when you talk for 3 hours straight. I flip-flopped Tyler Herro's isolations and pick and roll data in my head. I knew it, but I said the numbers backwards. I corrected it in the next segment. I'm like, my bad, I got it wrong. I wasn't like a shot at Tyler Herro or anything like that. That part didn't get aggregated.
Yeah, the other part does.
The other part did.
Yeah, always does.
Tyler Herro DM'd me.
No.
And Herro went at my neck pretty hard. And I had already tweeted, like, because I got ahead of the aggregators. Like, my bad, like, mea culpa, I got it backwards. Stuff happens. I didn't care what the Miami Heat people thought. I just wanted to be like, hey, for the record, I said something incorrect, but I have corrected it. Like, it wasn't like I wasn't trashing him. I just said something backwards. Herro and I talked for about probably 25, 30 minutes back and forth. And I sent him the audio of the first cut. I sent him the audio of the second cut. I sent him the tweet of like me apologizing. And instead of blowing me up on social media, which he absolutely could have, because CJ did it to me once and I did the same thing with him. Like, I texted him like, hey man, what the hell?
Yeah. Like, just talk to me.
Talk to me, dude.
Yeah.
And Herro, I will have an infinite amount of respect for as long as he plays the game and beyond. Because he said, that was really big of you. Nobody else in the media does that. And I'm like, dude, I wasn't trying to trash on you. Like, listen to the segment. I wasn't calling you trash. I was just saying these numbers. And like that's why it's like the Blazers already have a player like you.
Right.
That's all that was all the comparison ever was.
Right.
But he was like, we had basically this discussion. He's like, everybody's always just out trashing people. Everybody hates the game. Nobody's good. Everybody's trash. And we had a really great discussion back and forth. When the Heat came to town last year, or this year, I should say, I got to talk to him for like 5 minutes before the game, and he was really cool, and he kind of rehashed that conversation. He was like, no, he goes, most guys in the league, most guys around in media wouldn't do what you did, and I respect that for you. But the conversation started because so many people, all they do is just crap on the game and crap on players. LeBron had that tweet storm a couple days ago.
Confronted Stephen A. Smith last night to his face.
Yeah. And the thing was, look, Braun used that whole beautiful game, our beautiful game stuff. It was like, all right, dude, stop putting this through the publicist or through ChatGPT.
Just be real.
Like, but otherwise, the crux of the message was right.
Yeah.
And it's why I always try to make sure to highlight the little things. Like I wrote an article this Monday about the Blazers being better in transition. Now, they aren't the best transition team in the league, but they've gone from the worst to middle of the pack.
That's good.
It is.
Yep.
Highlight that. Why is it different? Why are they better? They're better on the defensive glass. Anthony Simons is taking more opportunities and taking more chances. I literally text Ant like, hey man, I saw this on film. Is this something that you guys are focusing on? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, can you kind of expand on it? So he gave me some reasoning and some stuff and a quote to kind of put in the article to drive that, that message further to kind of reinforce that. Like, the problem is there aren't people that want to consume that because everybody wants the bite-sized stupid thing. Where in the NFL, you're willing to have more nuanced conversation because that nuanced conversation starts at the top.
Yeah, it's more of a want to, but I think like if the NBA like is upset about this, they're the ones feeding into it. They want the Instagram numbers. They want the Twitter numbers.
Listen to Adam Silver. The first thing he talks about when he talks about the
Social
state or
media
health
numbers,
of the game,
social
it's impressions and social.
Yep.
And it's like, the game is the thing that matters, dude.
Right. No, but it's almost the culture. Like, think about it.
But again, it starts at the top. It's
right.
the league partners. It's the commissioner. It's how it's framed at the very top. Roger Goodell is never going up and talking to press about the crappy state of their game.
And you know what else? You never have J.J. Watt going out and just dumping on people. When he does dump on people, there are facts behind it, and it's in a nuanced conversation.
I've seen him on with McAfee, which is the bleep around gang, right? And somebody will say something out of pocket, and JJ will go, "Hey, no, we're not doing that here.
Right?
We're not. No."
The hot takes are different in the NFL because it's almost more of in a weird way, it's a propping up of a team. Like, how many people came out and were like, the New York Jets, this year, they're going to beat Buffalo, they're going to win the conference, right? And even when there is a putting down, it's never putting down of an individual player. It's more often than not a putting down of an entire organization. I think the difference with the NBA is everyone is so out there, and it is a player-driven league, and it is an idol-driven league. But, like, when you talk about the MJ versus LeBron debate, which we're not going to do here, but when people
we will never, ever do that debate here.
When people do it, they don't say MJ is the best because of these things that he achieved. It's MJ's the best because he achieved these things and LeBron didn't achieve those things.
Yes.
And it's
always knocking somebody else down to prop somebody else up.
Where I think in other sports you can have a conversation where it's always a build up.
Yes. And again, it starts at the top. Like if you're going to ask who's the best wide receiver in the NFL is, you go Jerry Rice, and then everybody else falls in line. It's not this guy wasn't this or this guy wasn't that. It's him and then everybody else. All right, coming up next, the story that will not go away and probably won't go away for all of perpetuity. The Luka Doncic trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. Former Mavs owner Mark Cuban has spoken out about that. We'll dive into the next one. First, here's Big Bill Betts, the Sports Center Update.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Sports Center is brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, in the NFL, the Seahawks are exploring several trade options for wide receiver DK Metcalf after Metcalf requested a trade earlier this week. GM John Schneider has not ruled out the possibility of DK returning to the team this season. He is still under contract through 2025. The final regular season weekend in college hoops begins on Saturday. Number 1, Auburn takes on number 7, Alabama at home. In their final game of the regular season, Auburn is favored by 7.5. Number 2, Duke travels to Chapel Hill to take on North Carolina. The Tar Heels, they are having a nice little renaissance right now. They've won 6 in a row. Duke is favored by 12.5. Your Oregon Ducks play their final game of the regular season in Seattle. They're taking on the Huskies. That game's going to be on Sunday. Tip-off for that game is scheduled for noon. And you can listen to that game here on 1080 The Fan. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
This is your home for year-round Fan.
Good Lord, the Rotator couldn't have picked a better song for this. Living with a Ghost, living on the West Coast. Luka Doncic going from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers steal one away from the New York Knicks last night in overtime. Luka Doncic has another masterful performance. Turns out the top five playering for the Lakers. Former majority owner of the Dallas Mavericks, who sold his majority share off to the Adelson family in 2024, is finally spoken out about the trade, talking to WFAA, the ABC affiliate in Dallas. If the Mavs are going to trade Luka, that's one thing. Just get a better deal. No disrespect to Anthony Davis, but I still firmly believe if we had gotten 4 unprotected number ones in Anthony Davis and Max Christie, this would be a different conversation. Now, for those wondering, Cuban did not sell all of his shares. He is still a 27.7% stakeholder in the franchise. But he is no longer involved with team decisions. He also said he wouldn't say whether he would trade Doncic or not. If you missed it, he had a tech sit down with Bill Gates. And in that clip, he goes, "Hey, hypothetically, if you're running Microsoft and you have the newest, greatest Microsoft, and somebody wanted to trade you, I don't know, Windows 95 for it, would you do it?" Otherwise known as calling Anthony Davis Windows 95 and Luka Doncic Windows 11. It's like, oof, that's pretty tough. So I think it's pretty safe to say that he would not have traded away. Again, Mark Cuban is also the owner that traded away Trae Young and the pick that became Cam Reddish for the right to draft Luka Doncic. Yeah, the Hawks are probably regretting that one a little bit too. But the more and more I ask around about this, the shock of it is still there. And with everything that's going on in Dallas, they have no face. They have nobody out there that is willingly talking about what happened with any rationale or any sense. And the longer this stuff goes and the better Luka looks, it is reaching an apex of, is this the worst trade in North American sports history? And I legitimately think it has reached that point where even a guy who's a current owner is like, I'm not going to talk about that, which means it says everything you need to know about it. It's just a terrible, terrible place to be, and I feel god awful for all of the Mavs fans and everything that's going on there. I hope and pray that they don't win the lottery, just because that organization should not have any hope or any future going forward with Nico Harrison. Now, if they fire Nico Harrison, maybe they can figure that out. Coming up next, though, the Oregon Ducks, they extend Dan Lanning, but they also made a couple other moves to retain their top coordinators as well. Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan.
The best
Next, we talk about the announcement of Dan Lanning being extended through 2030 with the Oregon Ducks at $11 million a year and continuing his $20 million buyout. Today, we have confirmation that the Oregon Ducks have also extended both coordinators, Will Stein and Tosh Lupoi, through 2027. I found it a little bit surprising that they weren't linked up in the same years, although it's not uncommon for coordinators to have off cycles because changes do happen and it does give you some wiggle room. If for whatever reason they need to make a change, that you don't have a buyout of additional years, but it does get those coordinators the security of a few more years on top of it, along with Lanning.
Yeah, I think it shows you that they trust where Lanning and his, two generals, I guess is the way you would say it, are leading this team. And there are some complaints, I think, warranted against both Stein and against Tosh Lupoi, but I think what's most important about them is it's clear that you can have success in an Oregon Duck uniform if you go and play for them. Now, there are, some arguments to be made. Hey, Lupoi should have made some different changes against Ohio State. He should have had a better game plan. Well, at the same time, he's the same recruiter that brought in Mateo Uyunglele. He's the same recruiter that got Jordan Birch in the portal. He's the same one that has turned that defensive line unit, a unit that, no offense to the Oregon Ducks, has never been like, hey, when you think of the Oregon Ducks, think about their defensive line.
They've had a guy or two
about right now.
They've had an Eric Armstead. They've had a Haloti Ngata.
But they've never had a group that was as deep as this group was.
They're going to put two guys in the NFL who might end up being first-round picks.
And it's going to get deeper, honestly, with what Lupoi has going through, getting in the high school recruiting. And with Stein, it's just proven year after year, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, at least for the first 2 years. And from everything coming out of Eugene right now, apparently Moore is all that he's been advertised to be. He's fixed a lot of the mistakes that he had at UCLA. So I think that both of those guys have earned it. Are there ways for them to improve? 100%. Sure. But if you trust that they're going to make the improvements, these are great signings.
Yeah, make sure you line things up and things make sense. And there's that, at least the bar has been reached as far as consistency and trust and everything else that kind of goes through it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Oregon's doing the right things. Do I think that they have the coordinator cachet of an Ohio State, of an Alabama, and what they've had over the last couple years? No, they're not there yet, but that's, I think, the next step.
See, but I think even if you look at them like an Ohio State just lost maybe one of the better DCs, if not the best DC in college football.
Those programs conference turn them over.
Right. And that was the thing. He left in a move that most people would have said was lateral. So I think
I'd say it was a downgrade, but
right. And I don't think that you're unwarranted in saying that. Penn State at best is a lateral move from Ohio State, right?
Absolute best.
So I think it's smart of Oregon, though, to see the writing on the wall in the formula that Lanning has created is working. Every single year he's been there, you've improved, right? You went into the Big Ten, and yes, the Rose Bowl was disappointing, but in your first season in the Big Ten, you beat Ohio State, you beat Penn State, you beat Michigan, you beat Michigan State. Those are the four best teams historically in that conference, right? And you're the first team ever in that conference to beat Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan all in the same year. That's gigantic. You were the number one team for half of the season, over half of the season. You're building in the right process. And it wasn't, hey, you had a special quarterback. Hey, you had a special side of the football like you'd kind of had in the past. Or like when you look at the old Chip Kelly teams, yeah, they had a lot of success. You could make the argument maybe a little bit more success than Lanning has had so far because Chip Kelly was able to get to a national championship game. And then the first year of Helfrich, which was all of Chip Kelly's guys, you also got to a national championship. But again, with those teams, you got to a national championship because of smoke and mirrors is the wrong way to say it, but because you had a superior offensive game plan compared to everyone else in the country. No one had caught up to the up-tempo offense at that point. And then the Mark Helfrich year, you had the best football player in the most important position on that team. That's why you were where you were. With Dan Lanning's teams and with Lupoi's defense and with Stein's offense, you have really good players. You have quarterbacks that are getting Heisman Trophy votes, but they're not winning it, right? They're not hands down the best quarterbacks in the country. You have a solid unit that can compete. You have an offensive line that matches. Everyone does. Yeah. You have an offensive line that can compete with SEC D lines. You have a D line that can compete with SEC and Big Ten offensive lines. You have legit game changers on the outside. And it's not relying on, well, I really hope DeAnthony Thomas doesn't get hurt this year. Or I really hope that we can use our zone read option before defenses start recruiting linebackers that can actually play that position. You are going toe-to-toe with them, and you're not using guerrilla tactics to win those games. And I think that's more so why they're getting these extensions. And then the trust is that you can hold on to them. Because I'll tell you what, right now, as good as Coach Stein has been, I'm sure that there are some Oregon Duck fans that are looking at Arizona State and like, man, if only Arizona State had come open like a year or two later, like what could Dillingham have continued to do?
Yeah.
Right. With how much success that he has had. So, you know, people are going to come calling for Lupoi. You know, people are going to come calling for Stein. How long can you hold on to him? Maybe this gives you an extra couple of years just because of the monetary value.
It's a good place to be. Coming up next year now, number 3, the Portland Trailblazers are going to wrap up the 7-game road trip, taking on what's left of the Oklahoma City Thunder. In name only, I guess. They have 6 guys out with one more listed as day-to-day. It's going to be an interesting night tonight as they take on the Thunder. Why would the Thunder do this? We'll get to that and more here in hour number 3 here on Dating Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
For a limited time,
I have a terrible mustache. I look like a conquistador.
An Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, your Portland Pilots play their first game of the WCC tournament tonight in Las Vegas against Pepperdine. The Pilots are favored by 1.5. Tip-off scheduled for 6. If the Pilots win this game, they will play Saturday night against the Oregon State Beavers. You can listen to tonight's game over on 910 ESPN Portland, starting with the pregame show at 5:30. The Oregon Ducks don't play their final game of the regular season until Sunday. They're taking on the Huskies in Seattle. Tip-off for that game is going to be scheduled for noon. You can listen to that game here on 1080 The Fan. In the NFL, the Lions and linebacker Derek Barnes have reached a 3-year, $25.5 million contract extension. $16 million of that is going to be guaranteed. Barnes only played in 3 games this last season after he suffered a knee injury versus the Cardinals, one of those Lions defensive injuries that affected them late in the year. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. This is Danny and Dusty.
What in God's name is going on in here? What was that ruckus?
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
What ruckus? I was just in my office and I heard a ruckus.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app.
Describe the ruckus, sir.
And 1080.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
The Fan.
Hour 2 here on Danny and Dusty on a Friday afternoon. Dusty is out getting crabs. You heard me.
Again?
Again. We'll delouse him when he gets back.
That guy needs to learn to stop getting crabs.
I know, right? I am without my work wife and my wife, as Dusty is out today. He'll be back on Monday.
What is Rust?
He's my side piece.
Your work mistress?
He's my side piece.
Mistress?
Yeah.
Because he's a man.
Yeah, he's my side piece. Come on now. We well know Russ does things that Dusty just won't do. That's how it works.
You can tell just by looking.
Oh, God. Yeah, I hope he's listening right now. Like, God, why are you putting that out there?
Like, it doesn't have to be this way. He's dealing with sick kiddo and sick wife at home, and then you're just going plain sick on the air.
You know, it's how it goes. My wife, so obviously I do the post-game show for the Trailblazers on K2. And don't get me wrong, I love doing it, but part of the reason I want to do it because I love doing it, but also it's more money in my pocket. And with that money, it was going to be vacation money. And this summer, the wife and I are going to take a very long trip, probably about 2 weeks through the Mediterranean. And but what I soon found out was, first of all, I would be paying for my wife and my mother-in-law to go on a Caribbean cruise. I guess a Mexican cruise from Mexico to Belize to Honduras without me. So I will be wifeless for the next 10 days, which is going to be the most time we've ever spent apart since we've been together.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like,
Yeah, that
I've
makes
done
sense.
Summer League, I've done DC, I've done a couple other trips here or there, but nothing like this. It's going to be anybody eating right now. I'm sorry. It's going to be a lot of me walking around the house naked.
That's your go-to? You're a walk around the house? I can't do it. I walk around my room, but...
I mean, I'm not going to go.
I feel
I'm not going
weird.
to go full naked. I mean, I'll just, freely walk around at all times. The only
Gym
reason
shorts.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go gym shorts, box briefs, throw it around. But there's that mental picture for you. Enjoy that one.
I was going to say, gym shorts with the shirt off. Unfortunately, my poor roommate has to see that all the time.
It happens, man. You got to let it go.
It's my home. I'm comfortable, man. I'm not
Yes.
out here. I'm not dressing up for you. It's my home.
Right? Pivoting here to the Portland Trailblazers.
Speaking of walking around naked.
Yeah. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they are bearing it all, as it were. Here is the current injury report for the Oklahoma City Thunder for tonight's game against the Portland Trailblazers. Out, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Out, Jalen Williams. Out, Kason Wallace. Out, Lou Dort. Out, Isaiah Hartenstein. And day-to-day, Chet Holmgren. Why would the Thunder do this? If you want to go full tinfoil hat, they're trying to give the Blazers a win and put some pressure on the Los Angeles Clippers, which I don't see that happening. It's 5.5 games, but you never know. Roll the bones and see where they come up. The Thunder have that pick. They own the Clippers pick. So if they have a chance to maybe drive it down a little bit, and drive it up in value for them, why not? The other reason, the Oklahoma City Thunder have a 10.5 game lead on the number 2 Los Angeles Lakers. They're not catching them. So why not rest against a team that you don't care about? And let your young guys go out there, and if they lose, they lose. If they win, they win. Whatever. But get guys some rest in a game that the thing that matters for you the most is getting to the playoffs healthy right now. Now, I don't like this. I think it's very stupid. I don't think the league should allow this. I think they should absolutely step in, because if you're going to this game, if you bought tickets to this game, and the Blazers, they're lower on the standings, whatever. But if you only go to one game a year and you go to see your favorite player and he's not playing because they're worried about rest, what the hell, man? You're talking about 4 starters, potentially 5 being out. And you look at this, Jalen Williams is listed as out for a wrist. SGA is out for rest. Cason Wallace is out for a knee contusion. Dort is out for a knee. Hartenstein is out due to a nasal fracture, which that one's a little bit more believable. Where Chet, it's like, it becomes basically like a hockey injury report of lower body injury. They have leg listed. Leg. That is the official injury designation. Leg. Not hip, not ankle, not knee, not thigh contusion.
They should just do body.
It's not as good as the Spurs did with Tim Duncan with DNP old.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's the gold medal winner. That is Pop putting DNP old officially on the injury report is tremendous stuff. Tremendous stuff. The flip side of this is, I remember when the Blazers accidentally handed in a lineup card without CJ McCollum on it, and he was not allowed to play that game.
Extra day off.
Yeah, that was oops.
How do you do that? I never understand how you do that one.
I think they left the designator empty, so he was ruled as out. It was a very technical thing, but I can't remember who they were playing. But the other team was like, can't do it. Can't do it.
Gotta leave him out.
Gotta leave him out now. So CJ was stuck in street clothes. But this is so dumb. I hate everything about this. Not only from a fan standpoint, a consumer of the game standpoint, but part of this trip was I wanted to see how this team stacked up against these teams. And you saw the Celtics, they sat everybody, but you have got Peyton Pritchard and Derek White go have the best games of their careers.
Berserk.
Look, stuff happens. The Cavs sat Donovan Mitchell, but the Blazers pushed that game to overtime. They acquitted themselves quite well. This is supposed to be like a measuring stick game.
But
it's also game 7 of a 13-day trip, and I had Donovan Clingan on the podcast last night. They're tired.
Right, but unfortunately, doesn't this still work as a measuring stick and telling you where you're at?
Not
know
necessarily,
what I mean?
because it is game 7 of a road trip, and you're playing a bunch of young, hungry guys, but it's not the level of talent.
No. I mean how OKC views you. Like, isn't that the measuring stick for you? Where it's like, hey, while the Blazers are clearly improving, you've already gone over your win total. Congratulations to everyone who bet the over. But if you are still a team that is looked at as, hey, we can get our star players some rest and possibly affect another team in our conference and make life a little bit harder on them, let's do it. That should tell you where you're at right now, which to me is fair of what this Blazer team is. Now, the last 2 months, it's been hopeful. It feels like they are making the right steps towards becoming a group, an organization that is back in the playoff conversation, even if it is just the play-in. There's still moves, obviously, you have to make. But to me, the measuring stick is this team doesn't think you're worth the varsity. You get to play the JV.
Yes.
It's where you're at.
And unfortunately, that is the spot they are in. Coming next, Ben Golliver, former Blazers Edge, Yahoo Sports, and now lead basketball writer for the Washington Post, and my good friend, wrote an article talking about the changing tides of youth basketball in the USA. The NBA is stepping in, and they want to stop the AAUification of basketball. And this is something that we've talked about a little bit as the NBA has kind of pushed their way into this. but it's starting to gain real traction and real steam, and we might have a real development pipeline going on in basketball here in the U.S. coming up. So we'll get to that next year on Danny Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
Check
The world of basketball is catching up to the United States, and it starts in the youth movement and how they develop their players. Ben Golliver has a very long article in the Washington Post today talking about the unique challenges between the international stars and the American-born stars and the things that they all kind of go through and how different they are. And there's so much that feeds into this. And it's not just the AAU, ABCD, EYBL, acronym, high school stuff. But it's everything that goes along into it. Let's start with the basketball component, because there's a lot of the basketball component. The Golliver sets the tone of this article by talking about Joakim Noah, defensive player of the year, great rebounder, team guy. I mean, his jump shot was terrible. Like, he airballed free throws. But it starts with, he asked this group of this top level prospects he was doing a Zoom conference with. And he goes, how many of you enjoy rebounding? And the crowd kind of gave him some, and he goes, that's interesting. This is what rebounding gets you. And he pans his computer around his Hawaiian home on a beachfront property and his $140 million worth of career earnings. The idea that you can only make money by being this one-on-one scorer. Now, the name of the game in basketball is always putting ball in hoop. But what the NBA is trying to do all the way down at the youth levels is to emphasize the team game. And the reason why this is happening is because the American grasp on the game is losing a foothold. Don't get it twisted. The U.S. is still very top. But I've also said 2028, it would not surprise me to see France be the gold medal winning team coming out of Los Angeles. The last 2 number 1 overall picks have been French, and they've been 7-foot freaks. Now, Sarr is not the same level of prospect as Victor Wembanyama. Victor is quite literally the definition of a generational prospect. They're in the last, 30 years? When you talk about generational, like, yeah, that dude's gonna be a dude. You knew it the second they got to the league. It starts with Braun, probably goes all the way out to Anthony Davis, and now Victor. When you're talking about physical freaks and tools and skills and mentality and mindset, and yes, you can talk about Anthony Davis's injuries and all that kind of stuff. As a reminder, Anthony Davis was the last freshman to win National Player of the Year and a national championship. He was really, 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 really good. Okay? But the idea starts at the NBA level and goes down, whether it's Joe Dumars, whether it's Adam Silver, whether it's the deputies that are working in there, because they're looking around and they're seeing the faces of the NBA, Zion Williamson, John Morant, Ant Edwards, these guys that are very, very, very high-level players, 2 number 1 picks and number 2 pick, that came out of this as supreme talents, but lacking significantly in soft skills, whether it's Zion and his weight and how he's comported himself in social media, chasing porn stars. Look, I'm not going to tell somebody how to live, but you got to keep that stuff under control. Ant Edwards and his multiple profanity-laced text messages about getting abortions, his homophobic comments at a gay bar in Atlanta, John Morant flashing a gun multiple times. I had somebody ask me 2 years ago who I would take to build a franchise with, Ant Edwards or Tyrese Halliburton. I go, Ant Edwards is unquestionably more talented. Give me Tyrese Halliburton every single time. Because being the face of a team, being the face of a franchise, being the face of a league, Tyrese Halliburton has so much further ahead. Ant Edwards will never get there. He will never get there. I hope he does, but the likelihood that he gets there is next to none. His comment was about a month ago. I don't want to get double teamed. I don't want to pass the ball. I don't want to play make. I'm a scorer. That mentality is so broken and so in stark contrast. Going back to Luka Doncic, do you know what Luka Doncic is as a basketball player? He is a force multiplier. He is one of maybe 3 players in the NBA right now that his ability lifts all boats, makes everyone better. You could say LeBron is still kind of that to an extent, but he's 40 freaking years old. Beyond him, beyond Luka, it's Nikola Jokic and it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. And you could argue Victor Wembanyama is heading down that path as long as his blood clots heal. Jason Tatum is not a force multiplier. He's a phenomenal player. SGA is not a force multiplier. He is a phenomenal player. And there's so much that goes into this. It is not just the off-the-court stuff. It is how they play the game, how they're brought up to play the game. The AAUification of basketball. And look, AAU is good because it gets you branding, gets you more opportunities. American-born players have more opportunities. They have more avenues to success, whether it's NIL, like you've got Yegor Demin, who came over from Russia to play for BYU and got a couple $1 million. That's the reason he did it. And that's great. But he's also likely the best playmaker in college basketball right now. He's probably the best pure passer. Him and Kasparas Jakashionis, who came over from Lithuania.
Right.
Noticing a trend here?
Yes, I would say this, though, to like at least kind of shine a bright spot on basketball. Basketball is not the only sport that's dealing with this issue. And you're starting to see it in quarterback development. Like, remember, the best quarterback in the NFL right now, arguably probably top 5 all time, if you're like being really generous, Patrick Mahomes, couldn't read a defense.
Played at Texas Tech.
He didn't understand how to set a point. Right? And that's because of the offense that he used in high school and the offense that he used in college. You didn't have to do that. And I think what you're seeing in football and basketball for sure, I don't know enough about hockey, but I'm sure it's kind of similar in baseball. But again, baseball is a little different. Have you seen
travel baseball, though?
It's a little different because baseball, it's throw really hard, hit the baseball. Right. So, but for football and basketball in particular, what are you seeing a lot more rise up now? You're seeing the AAU, you're seeing the 7-on-7, you're seeing the travel teams. And then you have these parents or these adults who become more important than the high school coach. And it's the trainer, right? The trainer becomes the bigger
development guy.
The skill development guy. But here's the thing. He doesn't develop your skills because you don't practice with them. Now, there are some people who do a great job of skill development, and that is what they do. That is their job. But if your job is, I'm the skill development coach, but to get my skill development, you have to play for my basketball team that travels and plays 100 games a summer, and we practice once a week, you're not skill developing. You're play developing. And that's why you see a lot of NBA players now when they come into the league, they want to go ISO. It's why when you look at a lot of quarterbacks, they don't understand coverages. It's why wide receivers don't understand coverages because they're not asked to, because it's simpler to just say, go out and run a vert. Go run a post.
Real quick,
go run a corner.
Where did Josh Allen go to college?
Josh Allen went to Wyoming, and he was a JUCO guy somewhere.
Where did Lamar Jackson go to college?
He went to Louisville.
Okay. Tom Brady was
Michigan,
the GOAT, and he was not a good quarterback in college in a Michigan program that was. They were okay then.
Yeah,
they were okay. They were okay then. They weren't the best quarterbacks in college. Now, with Lamar, different expectations.
Well, he was a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yes, but at Louisville.
Yeah.
This idea that you have to play for the best program in the country, go through all of these things, going through this process, whether it's in football, the 7-on-7s, or in basketball at AAU. I've talked to international players. The Blazers have a handful of them. And the development differences, talking to Roops, playing over in France. No, I've mentioned this countless times. Ryan Repair is one of the most psychotic workers I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, they got to throw him out of the practice gym. This guy lives, breathes, eats, sleep basketball, right? But in talking to these guys that come over, they talk about how we practice.
All the time. All the time.
That's what we do. We practice. We play like maybe 2 games a week. If you go overseas and you play pickup basketball, you know what you see? Ball movement.
Yeah.
Even just regular Joes. It is a different style of basketball. It is team emphasis. Like, you go play a pickup game overseas. Like when I was stationed overseas, even back then, we play pickup games off base, and these guys are they're just looking to dime you up.
Right.
And they're making cuts all the time. They're setting back screens. They're setting off-ball screens. Like, it is more emphasis on the team game.
Right.
And the individual team play and individual star power is the thing that is emphasized. That's going to get you to the league. Being able to score. Tumani Kamara got to the league and has exploded because he's doing everything else.
Right.
Donovan Clingan was the 7th pick in the draft because he's 7'3" and he's huge and he does the dirty work.
You want the rock, you got to block. That's a huge thing in football, and there's a lot of guys. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of guys who don't block that get looked at, but it's similar to Joe Johnson, right? Joe Johnson was awesome. Why did his teams never win? Because he was ISO Joe. He had to be by himself. it's the youth development system, and unfortunately, I think it's a lot of, and I don't necessarily think that these people have the wrong idea, because I think these people do truly get into it wanting to help kids and do help kids. But the irony of like Josh Allen, as good as Josh Allen was, Josh Allen didn't take the next step in his career until he actually went to the best quarterback skill developer in the world. He went to Jordan Palmer. Jordan Palmer fixed his throwing motion. And that's when he changed from being a really electric quarterback into being a MVP candidate, eventually an MVP winner. Like, you really see the true next steps being taken by either the freak of all freak athletes or the athletes that do find the right skill developer to help them take that next step. And unfortunately, I don't know how you get out of this system with AAU for basketball. And with football, it's very clearly going in that direction as well. There's a reason why 7-on-7 is popping up all the time. There's a reason why you see some of the big trainers of high school athletes in the country now. Guess what they're starting to do in the spring? They're having their own football game. And to the kids, that at times might start to mean more, because they believe that those are the coaches that will actually get them to the next level, which is unfortunate.
Yes. And that's the thing, is you're seeing, and there are good ones and there are bad ones, these skill coaches and these development coaches and all those kind of things, but the NBA is trying to step in, and they're probably late to the game. Not even probably. They're late to the game. This is something that's been a problem for 20 years. And NIL only complicates it, but what they're doing and how they're going about it, it's multi-tiered. It's not just about off-the-court stuff. It's not just about the basketball stuff. It's not just about the money. It's not just about the travel and too many games and practice. Like, they're taking it all into account. Luka Doncic's foundation did a research project of over 1,300 kids, and one of the things that came out of it was they all of them felt like that they're playing too many games. Yeah. They're playing too many games, and it's just like, here's where it comes from the report. The report, which is based on 1,300 participants, included interviews with players, parents, and coaches, found that the United States possessed superior resources, facilities, and showcase opportunities, particularly for young women, but that the pressure to perform drives players to burn out, and the viral chase for fame sidelines fundamentals. More than half of the American parents interviewed felt their child must play basketball without breaks just to remain competitive, and 43% said the system prioritizes individual star power more than team play. This is not a one-off. This is 1,300 people across grassroots in the U.S.
And they're being fed that. They're being told that. That's what they think. I mean, I know people. I am 10 years removed from high school. I know people that stopped playing for their high school team so that they could get a break in that sport and then would still play AAU or, the soccer version of it or the baseball version of it or the lacrosse version of it. And guess what? It worked because they got recruited at the volleyball tournament. They got recruited at the soccer tournament. They got recruited at the basketball tournament. They didn't get recruited at the high school game. They didn't get recruited when Wesleyan traveled to go take on Central Catholic. Mm-hmm. They got recruited when
LSI.
Their fast, AAU academy took on the other, less fast
showcase game.
Right. That's where they got recruited.
Court, all that kind of stuff. And what's really funny about that is, even before social media, there was an AAU tournament where a player suffered an injury and they needed to go get a guy. And this local kid showed up and they're like, who is this guy? And he was not big on the circuit yet. He was not that well known. He went in there and balled everybody up and made everybody look stupid to a level that they were like, oh, who was this? What just happened? That guy was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, who arguably has the best handles in the history of the game. If you are good enough, you will be found. That has always been true, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, hockey. If you are great, you will be found. This whole idea that you have to get this, you have to do this, no, man. If you are truly great, you will be found. Because the talent rises to the top. And you hear about these stories all the time. Yeah, no, we found this guy, this football player who was playing pickup at the rec center on campus, and they were like, Who is this dude? And the next thing you know, he's starting for his college basketball team. And it's just like, oh, so this whole idea that you have to do this, it's what? So you can get to Ohio Wesleyan?
Right.
You're going to get a $4,000 NIL deal?
Right.
Like, you're not making it to the league, bro. Stop doing that. Stop putting your kids through that. Stop being that kid's like, if I saw the 5'11", 6-foot white guy from West Lynn do this. Peyton Pritchard has a maniacal work ethic and also an insane level skill. His shooting.
Yep.
Beyond, like, he's the outlier. And I'm not telling guys to not go do this, but be wary of this. USC has a kid, Jerry Easter, he's a top 40 prospect. He's going to USC. And he says, look, I feel like it's too many games. I wish I had sat out my 9th grade year just to work on my game. So as I'm working out with Kyrie, if I had kept doing that, I would have gotten better.
Right.
But instead, I had AAU games, and I want to just stay healthy to get in the NBA and keep doing the right things. He estimated that between high school and AAU that season, he played 70 games.
Yeah. No, like
He played basically an NBA season.
that's too much.
A high school kid.
It's why you're having overuse injuries.
And that's
It's
the other
why
part
you're
of
having
this.
kids burn out. I have this conversation with my high school athletes, when I'm helping out coaching. Take a break. Go be a kid. Hey,
Yes.
man, I want you to eat a high protein diet. It's going to be the best for you building muscle. You're also 16.
Eat
Go
what you
get
want.
the Shamrock Shake.
Yeah.
Go
Because you
hang
can't
out
do it
with
when
your
you're older.
buddies.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, I am a football coach. Your butt better be doing track. If you're not a baseball player, your butt better be doing track.
Doing something.
And if you are an offensive lineman
better be
or a
throwing.
defensive lineman, learn from my mistakes. I didn't wrestle. I wasn't good enough to play basketball. You need to be doing one of those. If you're athletic enough to play basketball, do it.
Yeah.
And if not, wrestle.
Learn how to hand fight and learn discipline.
Wrestle. Still come in. Still weight lift. Hey
Yeah.
man, we're gonna have the weight room open. Mornings or afternoons, you figure it out.
Diversify your sports.
We want you to come in here. But I want you to get away from the game at that age. When you're old enough for it to be a job, let it be a job.
Yeah, exactly.
You're getting paid millions, let it be a job.
This
You're
is
not getting paid millions right
No.
now.
And
And
this-
the most important one, if you're an offensive lineman, I don't need you to weigh 300 pounds at 16. In fact, I encourage you not to do it. I had a conversation with a kid the other day. He goes, hey, didn't you tell me you used to drink 3 gallons of whole milk a week? Yes, I did. And I got extremely fat and I couldn't move and I had to lose that weight to get back to where I needed to be. Do not do that.
Yeah.
Learn from these mistakes. And hopefully what you see in the AAU circuit and hopefully what you see in football is the people who are my age, who are your age, whatever, who went through this system, understand what their mistakes were and break the cycle.
And that's what the NBA is trying to do now. And you won't see the benefits of those rewards for some time, probably at least a generation. But at least they're heading down this path. All right, coming up next on the Worst Day on the Web, the greatest sport you've never heard of. But first, here's Big Will Bets with the Sports Center update.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Sports Center is brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Good or bad weather, the golf course is always the driest around. Download the Langdon Farms app today to get all of the latest news and specials. First on the Fan, a couple of big games going on in the NBA. The Grizzlies travel to Dallas to take on the injury-riddled Mavericks. Memphis is currently favored by 10.5. Phoenix is traveling to Denver to take on the Nuggets. The Suns need to get their butt in gear if they want to turn their season around and get into the play-in game, let alone the playoffs. They're currently 4 games under 500. Denver is favored by 7.5. Your Portland Trailblazers are on the road. They're in Oklahoma City taking on the Thunder. Jeremy Grant and Denny Avdia are game-time decisions, both dealing with injuries. Multiple players are sitting out for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Chet Holmgren is a game-time decision to play, though. OKC favored by 2.5. Tip-off is at 5. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? Well, that sucks.
The greatest game you've never heard of.
Pickleball?
Kind of.
There's a big fight in the office this morning about pickleball.
Everybody's heard of pickleball, let's be honest.
Yeah, there was anger about is it a real sport or not.
It's a hobby. It's not a sport. It is an ancient version of soccer between hundreds of people. One of the rules is no murder, which means I'm out. Thousands of people descend on a small English countryside to watch a 2-day game that looks a lot like a riot. It's Royal Shrovetide, a centuries-old game played in Derbyshire that looks really nothing like soccer. One person who lives there says it's like tug of war without the rope. It's mad in the best possible way. The ball, it looks like a big soccer ball kind of a deal. Looks like wound up in leather kind of a deal.
What's it called again?
Royal Shrovetide.
Royal
Shrovetide.
Okay.
The ball is thrown high above a crowd of players, and they just try to basically catch it and march it all the way through. The aim is to goal at either end of a 3-mile sector. That match could take place through rivers, hedgerows, high streets, or just about anything except for the churchyards, cemeteries, and other places of worship. So the ball starts being thrown into a giant herd of people, and each team tries to carry it toward their desired goal. Rules are limited, but no murder was an early stipulation for the game that dates back to the 1600s. A good player needs to be hard, aggressive, and authoritative. And this whole family just that gets into this. He says, yeah, he himself goaled in 1986. You can't practice. You just got in there, got to be, this is a quote from one of the former players, 62 years old. You just got to get in there and be rough. I'm a rugby player. I'm also an ex-boxer, so that it helps. He also
cool designs.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's pretty crazy. The same guy, he had the honor of carrying then Prince Charles on his shoulder in 2003. He says he loved it. But this got me thinking about, do you know about Pocketalk?
You're talking like the old Mayan game or Aztec game?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay.
I'm a history guy.
That's a game that was played with murder as the intent.
Well, yeah, it's the Aztecs and the Mayans.
So it was also played over miles, and it was used to settle conflicts or wars, typically. And the losing team's leader, at least usually, and sometimes the entire team was then sacrificed to the gods. The winners would cut off their heads, and their heads and skulls were then used as balls going forward.
I shouldn't laugh, but that's objectively funny. Like, hey, I'm going to go play this game. If I lose, I die.
Insane. Here's another one. The sport of cricket was originally played with a severed head.
What?
Yeah.
Did we not have balls in the ancient world?
The actual report on this that was authored at the Ohio State University, they called The True Origins of Sports. Cricket was originally played with a severed head, and this sport was just really an excuse to hit severed heads with flat sticks.
Is this like a Black Plague thing? Like there were too many severed heads around, so you need to get rid of it? French Revolution, maybe?
I don't know. I haven't gotten that far into the report.
Why are we playing with severed heads? Could we not like make balls back then?
The number of sports that were played with severed heads is actually really high. Like they originated playing with severed heads.
I'm gonna be honest. One is high to me.
Right?
One seems high.
This was just the thing that you did.
Seems like a lot.
If you want to get an idea of Pocketalk, Chichen Itza, the Mayan historical monument, park, temple, all of those kind of things, that's actually they have a field there where Pocketalk was actually played. on the fan text line right now. Lacrosse was originally played with a set of deer testicles. Lacrosse has been played with a lot of different things.
Well, those are like the Iroquois Indians,
Yes.
right? Or Native Americans,
Yes,
excuse me.
the indigenous peoples.
There we go.
There you go.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Six Nations is where. Here, fun fact: hockey, not Canada's national sport.
It's lacrosse.
It's lacrosse.
Yeah.
I grew up playing lacrosse. One of my favorite sports.
It was like instead of war, wasn't it?
It was used to settle war.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very similar. It's crazy. All the way up in the cold north, all the way down in Central America, sticks and testicles and heads used to settle wars.
Why don't we do that now? Instead of like nukes, why can't we just be like, let's pick a sport?
I mean,
Is this how we make basketball great again in America?
yeah, see, China would never agree to this. They have the population numbers, but they only have one Yao Ming.
So then what do we play? What's the sport that we can play that everyone is equally good / bad at?
I'd say ping
For
pong,
war?
but I would say the Asian nations would destroy us.
Wrestling? Could we do wrestling?
Ooh.
Is wrestling even?
Yeah, we got our Roland Gardners and our Randy Coutures.
Right? Like
We could do well.
Daniel Cormier? Like we could be okay.
We couldn't do MMA because those Balkan boys.
You're losing to the Chechens.
You-
That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, the Serbs, the Bosnians, the Balkan boys are gonna. That's how they take over the world, right there.
Yeah, 100%.
We challenge you to another guy's last name ends with Ev.
The Ov parlay.
Yeah.
People have done the Ov
Yeah,
parlay.
you do the Ovs or the Evs, and you're like, I don't think I want that because you go boxing, it's another one. You're like the Evs and the Ovs. It's like that part of the world, they've got that market cornered, baby.
So this leads to an unfortunate question. Is it not soccer?
They carry it.
Ooh, text line? Boxing.
But the thing is, like, don't be
Boxing
wrong.
could be a good
I mean,
one.
if it was soccer, you think we'd be better at it by now. Boxing's good, but you've got guys like the Olympics this year because they got rid of the traditional scoring systems a couple Olympics ago. You get like boxers from like Algeria and Morocco. Like you get
Yeah.
some of these smaller nations, and every now and then they got a stud.
It would just be objectively funny if there was like one of the smaller countries and they're like, America, we challenge you, all out war. Okay, get your best boxer. We'll get our best boxer. And they have like, I don't know, Dolph Lundgren and
Well, it's
just
like-
dominates.
Well, it's like then weight classes come into play because look, I'm
True.
gonna go stereotypes here. The Philippines isn't gonna put up a heavyweight.
True. So how do we determine, like if we're going boxing, which I might be on board for, like that's
Look,
a good way to stop war.
the Ukraine situation with the Klitschko's.
Oh, they'd win.
I mean, if you're talking about those guys in their prime, they got two of them.
Yes. So how would you determine it? Like, do you like flip a coin?
Best of three. You pick a weight class, we pick a weight class, and we do a catch weight class.
You got to go more than 3. You got to do like 7, like a best of 7 series. You
No, I'm
probably
saying 3 fighters.
no, that's what I'm saying. I
Okay.
think 7. I think you go 7, and then I think what you do too is you go old school NBA where you do home and homes. So you do 2 home games, then 3 away, then 2 more home.
Okay, you flip a coin for the home.
Yeah, or like maybe you do like what was your last war?
Because-
How many
the thing is-
boxing?
Yeah, how
things
many
did you
how many
win?
fights did you win? There you go.
Right.
You get the literal world championship belt.
Right. Yeah. Or, maybe you go by GDP or something.
Mm.
I don't know. I would tune into that pay-per-view. That might be how you make boxing awesome again.
Well, did you see what's happening in boxing?
No. Maybe.
The Saudi PIF fund and Dana White have come together and they are striking up a new boxing league to fight against the WBA and IBF.
Dana just wants to rule all of combat sports.
Yeah,
Like
I
he's
mean-
got the slap league. He's got
Which I don't
UFC.
partake in, but when those
I don't
look,
like
when the
it.
reels come up on Instagram,
Yeah.
I watch.
Yeah,
I watch.
That's my consumption of the slap league. I don't like it.
Look, it's a concussion waiting to happen.
Well, I mean, it's just CTE.
Yeah.
You're watching someone get CTE.
The-
It's not cool.
At least they knowingly are doing it. I mean, the same thing can be said for boxing.
Well, but at this point, everything is
Yeah.
knowing. Like you're
You're getting compensated for
if
it.
you come in and try and be like, I didn't know that football
Yeah.
would give me CTE. That's on you.
See, boxing's probably the best one because it because you can't differentiate. Because if you start like, well, we'll do kickboxing, it's like, well, Thailand's gonna go ahead and have his thing or two to say about that.
Right.
Brazil's gonna have his thing or two to say about that.
Right.
Boxing's probably the best equalizer, but at the same time, what if you get into like, is it now bare knuckle boxing? Because those roving tribes members of the Tyson Furies of the world,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they have a lot more say at the UN. You know what I mean?
That's a problem.
The big gypsy's going to be up there and
Take care of business.
uh-huh.
I wanna know, like, if we could implement this, what would be the most fair?
Look, man, I've mentioned this on the show before. Everybody says violence doesn't solve anything. I say au contraire, my friend.
Controlled violence.
It has, and controlled violence, it has solved basically everything in the history of mankind.
Right. Like, if it
whether
worked-
you like it or not, it has solved everything.
Well, and I mean, I think you're making a great point here. Like, if murder worked for the Aztecs and the Mayans, why wouldn't murder work for us? But like in a controlled sporting
Yeah, and
environment.
we're not turning an entire country to glass.
Yes.
We're just turning somebody's face.
You want to stop
into-
nuclear warfare? Boxing fights.
throw fists, not bombs.
Well, different kind of bombs.
No, see. Hey, look, it's a mutual combat situation. Men go
Everyone-
down unconscious. War
Yeah.
over.
That'd
Look,
be
we
so
used to do this. Like in the
yes, we did. I just read about it.
Greek times, man. You sent your best challenger out.
I've seen Troy. I understand.
Look,
They
man.
didn't even use weight classes. Achilles just was.
You just look,
an
David.
animal.
We're gonna go biblical. David and Goliath.
Yeah, they tricked him.
It happens,
The
man.
short guy, short king,
Go Braveheart.
the original short king.
Throw the big rock versus Mel Gibson. Throwing the little rock.
It's a crazy movie because no part of that is even like remotely
Remotely
true.
No.
None of it at all.
No.
Not even close.
Well,
he
William,
just like
he's
used
the name
Yeah, he used the names.
and freedom, which we like here.
We're proud of it.
All right, coming up next, we're going to get out of sports here for a split second because I have to find a way to get this in here. I saw the most insane thing happen on the way in today. Man versus train. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
Station.
I had no idea what I was watching transpire in front of me on my way into work this morning.
What happened?
I cross 4 or 5 sets of railroad tracks on the way in every day. And I get caught by a train crossing once, maybe twice a week. It sucks. It's just the way it is. Like when I leave Newburgh and on my way to Portland every day, there's multiple tracks, whether it's if I go out the back way and go out Donald, or if I go through Newburgh 99, there's 2 sets of tracks through Tiger, and then 2 sets of tracks through Portland. And then there's another one down south. But today, the arms of the railroad crossing are dropping, and a guy with a U-Haul trailer sped through as the arm is going down. And when I say it missed it by inches, I mean missed it by inches. And I'm like, what the hell, dude? Are you dumb? Then I've got my windows down because it's nice this morning. I hear somebody screaming, "This is bleepity bleep. I'm going to be late." I look at my rearview mirror. It's not him. He's clearly frustrated. He's driving the big truck with the truck nuts. And I was like, what's going on here? And I see this guy that was stuck turning left out of the side street turn lane. He was mad because he was now blocked in because everybody come to stop. He pulls into the oncoming traffic lane in bobs and weaves through the arms being down. You can see the train coming.
Around the bend?
Yes, quite literally. The guy behind me with truck nuts, he sees this guy do this, revs his truck, does the exact same thing. 3 people in the span of 30 seconds roll the dice of, I want to end up on Faces of Death.
Why?
I have no idea. It was like each one was just trying to out-Darwin the other. I've never in my life seen anything like this.
I love dumb people.
I was rooting for the train.
You should be. You should. I mean,
The third time I was like, go for it.
Don't get me wrong.
Union Pacific, I'm putting money on you.
Don't get me wrong. There is nothing worse than being stuck in traffic. It's the worst thing in the world.
Especially the train, because there's absolutely no reason for it. Why trains cross through major metro areas during high traffic times
Dumb.
is insane to me.
Dumb. That being said, perfect time to pop up Twitter.
Oh, dude, I throw my car in park. I've got
Right.
So I have gotten 1 ticket in my adult life outside of getting a speeding ticket a month after I got my license. And this happened, was it 6 months ago? I got a ticket for using my cell phone while driving.
That's so lame.
It is. And here's the crappy part.
Gotta hit a quota.
You can't fight it. It will not come off your record. They passed
there
this law
forever?
it'll drop off in like 7 years or whatever it is.
Is that like an Oregon thing or
It's an Oregon thing.
Oh, okay.
They're really cracking down on it. And so now
We'll
I can
show you.
I could get out of paying it was like a $400 fine if I did this safety class that I just clicked through.
You should do that then.
But it stays on your record. But I've got the stupid little cell phone holder on my car now.
Smart.
Yeah.
Now you can do it.
Now I
Yeah.
can do it. Now I can touch my phone all I want while I drive legally because it's not in the palm of my hand. As stupid as that is.
What if it's in the palm of my hand, but I'm trying to get from point A to point B? Like,
Doesn't-
I don't know where I'm going, so I have my thing.
Doesn't matter. Put it in a holder.
If I get ticketed because I'm using maps,
You're gonna get ticketed.
that might be the day I lose it.
Mhm.
That might be the day.
That's the day you break. It is what it is, man. I had to share this because it was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. I'm just like, not 1, not 2, but 3 cars were like, screw it.
Well, they say the third time's the charm.
Right? And I've got a buddy who works in the train industry. He's the lead technical engineer for one of the big railroad companies. And his job was, until he got promoted, I will say last year, to go out and assess what happened in these wrecks. The stories he has told me, my God. And I'm just like, do you not see that thing? That's a game you want to play.
Just a bunch of dum-dums.
Just truly, I've never seen one car do what happened this morning. 3 of them did it in 30 seconds. I wanted to turn my phone. I wish I would have turned my phone on and had like the recording device just so people would believe what I saw.
That's
was
unbelievable. You
insane.
need dash cam.
I'm actually going to get one just because I've had people cut me off and slam on their brakes, and I'm like, I'm not paying for this. But that's a thought for another day. Coming up next in hour number 3, if you just act like it doesn't matter. You don't actually have to take the meeting with your superstar. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, your Portland Trailblazers are on the road. They're taking on Oklahoma City. Right now, the Thunder, they're favored by 2.5. Tip is going to be at 5 in that one. Over in the NFL, the Seahawks are exploring several trade options for wide receiver DK Metcalf after Metcalf requested a trade earlier this week. GM John Schneider has not ruled out the possibility of DK returning to the team this season. He is still under contract through the 2025 season. Final regular season weekend in college hoops or in the WCC, their tournament has just gotten underway. The Portland Pilots are playing their first game tonight in Vegas, taking on Pepperdine. The Pilots are favored by 1.5. Tip-off is going to be scheduled for 6. You can listen to that game over on 910 ESPN Portland, starting with the pregame show at 5:30. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new black 1080 The Fan hoodie, as well as classic long and short sleeve tees. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com.
Portland, if you've ever wondered where to get your Blazers, Ducks, and Bees, it's right here on the airwaves of 1080. 1080 The Fan with Danny and Dusty. It's Danny and Dusty and Rust from noon till 3.
Hour 3 here on Danny and Dusty on a Friday afternoon. It's a Danny and Ortner edition as Dusty is out, Rusty is out. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. Whether listening on 1080 AM, watching along on youtube.com/1080am the fan, or twitch.tv/1080am the fan. Ladies and gentlemen, this might be a new low as Browns owner Jimmy Haslam, which when you're talking about new lows for Jimmy Haslam, the barrel runneth over, has declined a request to meet with Myles Garrett amidst his trade request. Apparently, as a billionaire owner of a sad sack franchise who has arguably the best defensive player in football, you can just put your fingers in your ears and go, la, 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 I can't hear you, I'm going to make the most annoying sound in the world, la, 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 it doesn't exist, la, 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 la. And that's an effective strategy.
If you just dump your head in the sand, like what is that, ostriches do that?
Yes.
You're fine. Just stick your head in the sand and nothing will happen. How long is Garrett under contract? He's got another year or two on that deal.
I think it's 2 years.
Can you close your eyes and plug your ears for 2 years?
No.
Will he? So then here's the question, though. How long do you do it until, like, he has to play?
I don't think Myles Garrett has it in him.
I don't think so either.
But I would love to see him go full Jimmy Butler.
Well, I just think that
I'm going to be so toxic.
I think Haslam, the thing for Haslam is just write it out. Like, Myles Garrett has to show up to work or he doesn't get paid. Now, Myles Garrett has made enough money to where he can just say, all right, nuts to you, I'll retire and be done.
And you're going to alienate maybe the best player in your franchise's history.
I don't think, yes, I don't think either would go to that point.
I mean,
but
let's just say he says, screw it.
Would Myles retire?
That's what I was saying.
But then he can never come back. Ever. And it's clear that he wants to win the Super Bowl. It's an evil strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And a shocking development made by the same guy who gave all the guaranteed money in the world to Deshaun Watson after everything that Deshaun Watson had.
Nasty, nasty, nasty. Look, trade Myles Garrett and get a return. There is no shortage of teams in the NFL that will offer you what the Seattle Seahawks are actually asking for DK Metcalf.
Right.
You can get a first and a third for Myles Garrett.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, okay, he requested a trade. I got you for 2 years. I'm telling everyone else that I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to meet with you. But in reality, I'm just doing that to get the price back up.
Are they that smart?
No. I think he's dumbing into it.
Yes.
I mean, like, look, everything that he has done in the last 5 years has been self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get it, man. Baker's not the best quarterback in the world. Baker got you to the playoffs.
Kill to have him right now.
Baker almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs with the Cleveland Browns. Like, if Chad Henne doesn't get a first down on a scramble, if I remember right, they don't win that playoff game, or you're going to overtime, and the Cleveland Browns have a shot. You have one of the best offensive coaches as your head coach in all of football, to the point where, correct me if I'm wrong, he's won 2 Coach of the Year awards. You had one of the best defenses in the NFL. And you sent it all away for Deshaun Watson.
Oops.
A piece of garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew he was a piece of garbage.
Mm-hmm.
and you look the other way, and now you're upset that he got booed because you're a man of increase.
He's an idiot.
Yes.
Look, I am not. Look, I believe in the quote unquote player empowerment. The forcing of trades, I kind of go back and forth on. It's not as black and white as I think people want it to be. I believe that if you've good soldiered it and done what's necessary, and you've fulfilled obligations and the organization has not lived up to it, I have said this as it pertains to Damian Lillard specifically. I've had this conversation with Damian Lillard. You have earned every right to request a trade. I'm not going to argue with you over that. You've even earned the right to ask to go to Miami. And we had a long conversation about this multiple times during that summer about why I thought he wouldn't end up in Miami. I go, Dame, Joe will get fired if he trades you to Miami for that package.
It's not a good package.
That will happen. So Joe will not deal you there. Now, if the Miami Heat were to put Bam Adebayo in that deal, you would get dealt there. But you would not be playing with Bam Adebayo, and it doesn't serve the purpose now.
Right.
Now, ultimately, I think he got dealt to the best possible scenario in Milwaukee to play with Giannis. It's not Miami. Certainly not.
Nope.
But I thought he earned that because of what he did in his time and where the state of the franchise was. I feel very similar to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is arguably the best defensive player in football. If you want to say TJ Watt, I'm not going to fight you.
Right.
It's fine.
Miles might.
And he might win. Man's a freak.
Depends if he uses a helmet or not.
Yeah. I think he can do it without one too.
Right.
But I don't believe in I'm not happy, I want to be traded. That's different.
The Kevin Durant.
That stuff, that bothers me.
I agree with you. I think that's why Kevin Durant's legacy will be sullied. I think in most, and I get that you can't put most workplaces to sports.
It
I
is
understand.
entirely different.
I understand
yes.
that. But in most workplaces, if you are unhappy in a job or you feel like you're getting overlooked or people
You
are
go
getting
look
opportunities
elsewhere.
that you deserved, you get to look elsewhere. And I do believe, especially if you're someone who's earned it or if someone's willing to listen to you or willing to give you what you want,
Trey
you
Hendrickson,
should be allowed
Bengals.
to do it.
If you're
Right.
going to be cheap,
Matt Stafford.
yeah, hey,
Matt Stafford.
we've got a great relationship with you. You are our guy. You got us a Super Bowl ring.
Go look at the other places.
Go-
What are they willing
See
to
if the
give
grass
you?
is greener. Have you heard the reporting out of that? That not only were the Giants willing to give them Matt Stafford
They were
going to
give him everything.
Not just that, they were willing to work a trade.
Yes, they were.
And they were,
willing-
Les Snead has said that the package that the Giants put on the table was a package they would be willing to trade Matt Stafford for.
Yes, they were
And
willing
that's why
to
they
do
were
it.
able to come back together and come to an agreement.
But also, Matt Stafford looked at that and
And
said,
went, I don't want to be their dog.
they're not winning a title. That's not a championship team. Like, if I'm Myles Garrett, actually, I think the smarter thing, I know what the Browns ownership is doing right now by, hey, we're not going to pay attention. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to put our fingers in our ears, and we don't have to trade him.
There's a way to do this.
The smarter thing to do would be to call up the Giants or the Jets or insert bad team here. Because you know what Myles doesn't have in his contract? He doesn't have a no-trade clause.
Oh, you want to go?
You
I'm
want to
gonna take-
leave?
I'm gonna take the best
gonna
offer.
take the best offer.
John Snyder, did you hear what he said about DK Metcalf?
Best offer.
The way we're going to prioritize this deal, number one, we are going to do the best possible thing for this franchise.
Yep.
Number two, we're going to do the best possible thing for the player.
Yep.
Hopefully, there's an intersection of those two things.
But if there isn't,
As good as DK is, he is not Myles Garrett, nor has he been as important a figure to that franchise as Myles Garrett, the pantheon of Browns. It's Jim Brown, then Joe Thomas, and Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett's unbelievable. And here's the thing with Myles Garrett, too, and it's totally fair by him. He wants to go to a championship team. He wants to win a title because he knows. He knows.
Time's finite, baby.
He's got 3, maybe.
He's got 2 elite years, probably 2 really good
Maybe.
years.
Maybe.
Nothing's a guarantee because injuries
Right.
pop up, but I'm talking about like with what he is.
Right.
Like you very much see him aging as a supremely more advanced Von Miller of like, yeah, even on your aging years, you're still going to be an impact.
And that's because he's more naturally fit for that position. But
Yes.
again, he sees what's happening. And so he's trying to get out. And I get it because Cleveland, it's a dumpster fire. It's not going to happen, right? He should want to get out. If I'm Cleveland now, I am calling all of the bottom feeder franchises. And I'm saying, what are you
I'm
going to
calling
give
every
me?
franchise. It's
I'm-
Miles freaking Garrett.
I'm calling the bottom feeders, though, because you know what I'm going to ask for? I'm going to ask for draft capital.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to use him as a jump start to getting my franchise back where it needs to go. But they're not going to do that
Because they're stupid.
because they need jersey sales. I was listening to a podcast today, Bill Simmons, and so you got to take what you can with it.
I know what you're talking. No, I know. I was listening to it. As
House,
well, talking about the
Luka
value-
Doncic trade.
and the economic impact, not only in ticket sales, but in concessions and jersey sales,
Tickets.
valuation of the franchise, everything that comes along with that. He said anywhere from between $1.5 and $2 billion. I think that number's a little high, but if you said it was $1 billion, knowing the economics of the NBA, and this isn't this year,
Right.
It's the valuation basically over Luka's career.
$1 billion
Look,
lost.
it's not just the direct impact. Let's talk about Damian Lillard, okay? If you go to Moda Center, you don't see as many advertisements around the arena because they're not on national TV. Why aren't they on national TV? Because they're not good and they don't have a top 75 player of all time. Outside of LeBron James and Steph Curry, you know who is the most endorsed athlete in the NBA?
Luka?
Damian Lillard.
Oh. I would not have known that.
Gatorade. Oakley. He's the literal face of Adidas basketball.
Yeah.
Tissot. Think about all of Dame's, not local partnerships, his national and international partnerships. This is a guy who every summer goes to China and has a massive tour for Adidas.
Smart. Yeah. No,
Damian
that's
Lillard
huge.
is a global brand. And when that guy's there, guess what? They do partnerships with the Three Stripes.
Right.
When LeBron James comes to Portland, half of Nike descends on Moda
Right.
because they're right there in the backyard.
Mhm.
That stuff matters, man. Miles Garrett isn't doing that.
He still does well.
No, wrong.
But
He
not
does well, but
that.
like
Not that.
you're the NFL. If you're not printing money, you're stupid.
Right.
And so it's absolutely insane. All right, coming up next, we'll get into some more news and notes, including the ever-shifting winds of Sam Darnold, staying in Minnesota, not staying in Minnesota. Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan.
The best basketball party is back. George McCoy at Warren Allen Attorneys at Law presents Fan Madness, March 20th and 21st at the Stadium Sports Bar, home to A Sportsbook. A, make every buzzer beater, bracket buster, and Cinderella run mean more at A Sportsbook.
Goodness, from the parking lot.
Fan Madness at A. More info at 1080thefan.com.
Now, here's a quick look at Portland traffic.
There's a heavy Friday getaway.
Sports Leader 1080, The Fan.
It's going to be a two-parter double segment here because we got to turn and burn a little bit. There's some news and notes around the NFL as Sam Darnold's future, the Minnesota Vikings, has gone from, we think he'll be back, just as of Tuesday, to Adam Schefter today. He sat down and did a interview with Minnesota play-by-play announcer Paul Allen on their radio station up there, and was asked on a 0 to 10 scale how likely Darnold was to be back. He didn't give his response as it pertains to a number, but he said it would be significantly unlikely to see them stay together. That doesn't sound like much, but it does sound like there's been a change in the winds. And as we'll get to in the next half hour, there is some big-time quarterback news that is going to shake this up, and the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be at the center of all of it. Darnold himself has been linked with the Raiders, as well as the New York Giants. I don't see the Giants as a possibility there, so where Darnold goes, who knows? But as we're getting into free agency week, starting next week, you've got to have an answer one way or the other about what you're going to do, whether it's making a draft day trade and having the framework of that set up so you know what you're going to go do, or you've got your replacement level backup quarterback that's going to take some snaps and you're going to figure it out through the seasons to try to figure it out. The New York Giants bring back old Tommy Cutlets. Tommy DeVito is going to be back, so maybe that gives you an idea of, hey, maybe they are going to go patchwork and try and figure it out. But the quarterback dominoes are far from even really starting just a few days removed or until free agency begins.
It almost seems too like most teams are going to try and go the free agency route because right now it seems like it's Cam Ward and then it's kind of everybody else. Mm-hmm. Now you're hearing a lot of response from scouts and from NFL GMs where like a lot of fans were upset with how Shedeur Sanders kind of addressed everyone. A lot of the scouts and GMs were kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you had the reports. We talked about this yesterday.
We kind of expected
two
this.
Teams that he came out of the in an interview as arrogant and brash and not caring.
Yeah, well, guess who his dad is? His dad's the same guy who went into taking a test with the Giants, looked at the test and was like, what spot are you guys drafting in again? And they're like 12. He's like, I'll be drafted before that. Yeah. I'm out. Peace. Like,
that he could have self-sabotaged this is pretty likely.
Right.
Because Mary Kay Cabot, who covers the Cleveland Browns, she's been there for like 30 years, said it's like
knows he's getting taken high.
I would imagine he's in the top 5 picks.
Right.
Beyond that, she said that the interview with the Browns went great. And the Browns, I mean, look, this is all kinds of subterfuge and smoke screens and draft slotting and putting negative intel out there and all the things you can do to try to improve or your own position or sabotage somebody else's draft stock. This happens every single year. It's the nastiest part of all of this. It's the meat market and everybody counterbidding and doing what they can to drive prices down or prices up.
Right. Well, and so I think that's leading to a lot more, at least of a look with the free agency, because at least you know what you have there. The one that I found interesting was Peter Schrager was saying that he thinks Jared Stidham is going to be a guy that teams look at as that possible bridge because he's still young. And when he has played, he's shown success. Like if you get Kirk Cousins, right? You get, even Sam Darnold, you get Rodgers, you need to have a younger quarterback in there with them because they're gone in a couple of years, right? That's what you have to assume. Unless like you're looking at Sam Darnold where you're like, maybe he fits into our long-term plan. But with a guy like Stidham, he's still young enough to where you can convince yourself of if he works or at least is serviceable, right? Hey, he's serviceable. He's not going to throw a bunch of interceptions. We can game manager him out. That's a guy that you could possibly win a lot with. And that really surprised me because New England had that guy. Bill Belichick saw what he was and was like, I'm going to go try out Cam Newton with a guy who doesn't have a shoulder right now. I'm going to go draft Mac Jones. So why are people so high on Stidham?
Look, man, Peterman's been out there slinging that rock to the other team for, 7 straight seasons now?
Is he still on a team?
He's still out there.
Ugh.
Everyone gives it a try.
Just because he's so big. That Christian Hackenberg theory. Dude's big and can throw. I'll never understand it.
Who
You
was-
know what they are.
Who was the other Broncos quarterback that was huge?
Osweiler.
Yes, Brock. Yeah.
Osweiler. He was okay that Super Bowl year.
Yeah, but I mean, like you always talk yourself into the physical talents. That's the thing that's out there. All right, coming up next though, there is more quarterback news, and it does pertain to the Raiders, and it also might have to do with the Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith. But first, here's Big Will Betts with the Sports Center update.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, it's a big weekend in college basketball. Your Portland Pilots play their first game of the WCC tournament tonight in Las Vegas. They're taking on Pepperdine. Pilots are favored by 1.5, tip-off scheduled for 6. You can listen to that game over on 910 ESPN Portland, starting with the pregame show at 5:30. On Sunday, the Ducks play their final game of the regular season. They're in Seattle taking on the Huskies. Tip-off for that game is going to be scheduled for noon. You can listen to it here on 1080 The Fan. In the NFL, the Seahawks are exploring several trade options for wide receiver DK Metcalf after Metcalf requested a trade earlier this week. GM John Schneider has not ruled out the possibility, though, of DK returning to the team this season since he is under contract through the 2025 season. Over in the NBA, your Portland Trail Blazers are on the road. They're taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Jeremy Grant and Danny Avdija are still game time decisions. They're dealing with different injuries. Tip-off for that game at 5. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
It's The Fan on FM. Go to 90. Yeah, and Portland's sports leader, 1080, The Fan.
Balls will get mad at me, but we can let this one play for a second. Shout out Dusty and the Hippopotamus.
Great song.
It's a banger.
It's about Eazy-E.
There you go. Diana Rossini, one of our own, here at not only 1080, but my other former employer, NBC Sports Northwest, has a report. The Las Vegas Raiders are exploring veteran quarterback options on the free agent and trade market. That includes the possibility of trading for a current starting quarterback.
Ooh.
Interestingly enough, let's go a step further. Albert Breer, sources, quarterback Kirk Cousins asked for and got a meeting with Falcons owner Arthur Blank on his future. Blank and Cousins had that meeting Wednesday night. The QB wants to go to a place where he can start in 2025. The Falcons brass has said, but they would do what's best for the team at quarterback. But wait, there's more. If you go back and talk about the DK Metcalf possibilities and trades, the Raiders have been linked there with previous comments when Pete Carroll was fired by the Seattle Seahawks about DK Metcalf, saying that Pete Carroll was the reason he was responsible for his success along with John Snyder in Seattle. He believed in him. He loved him. He's a Hall of Fame caliber coach. Okay, you picking up what I'm putting down here? We also had, yesterday, we talked about the possibility of Kyler Murray being on the move from the Arizona Cardinals. So, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, DK Metcalf.
Super team.
No. Geno Smith. I've seen this get some traction from a couple different places. What if the Raiders traded draft capital to the Seahawks for both Geno Smith and DK Metcalf?
The draft capital would have to be nice.
It would be their first round pick. I wouldn't do it.
There'd need to be more.
Well, no, I'm saying that's it starts with that.
Yeah.
Like the first round pick this year is included in that. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And there's certainly more that goes along with it. I don't like this idea. This feels like skipping steps because the Raiders don't have a team they can just drop those two into and be good.
Right. As a Seahawks fan, I would like it. The issue is if you're making that move, you better have decided that you like Shador or you like Jackson Dart.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
Not love.
Yes. Like they're your person. They're the person that you want in your organization. And I don't know that I necessarily love Schneider's past with quarterbacks. Like, yes, did he land Russell Wilson? 100%. He also signed Flynn.
I was to say, they also spent $40 million on Matt Flynn, who didn't play for the
And
Seahawks.
you know who they really wanted to draft? They wanted to draft Anthony Richardson. If he doesn't get taken by Indianapolis, there's a world where he's probably a Seattle Seahawk. That's bad.
And you're talking yourself into that.
No, you're not. Like I would never. No, I would not. No, I would not. He can't complete 50% of his passes right now. He's like 47 career percent completion percentage. It just doesn't work. If I'm a Seahawk fan, and luckily I am, the return on that would have to be nice. And you'd have to say, I love Jackson Dart or I love Shador Sanders. And I think that person is going to be there. You're probably looking at a first rounder. You're probably looking at an early second rounder in the next year or this year. And then you're probably looking for another draft pick later on, either this year or next year, where we're talking about a day 3 draft pick, but you're probably talking like 5th round, maybe 6th round, probably not all the way to 7th. But there would need to be a massive return for Geno and for DK, especially with what DK's been doing. There's a lot of Seattle fans that I think underrate DK Metcalf. And I understand that he has issues at times with holding onto the football. But usually when he fumbles the football, it's after he's ran through 3 or 4 other dudes. How often do you see DK really lose a fumble where it's just one guy? And for me, I'm never going to criticize a guy or really jump down a guy's throat for making these great plays and then losing the football, because then you're asking that guy to stop trying to be great. Stop trying to make the great plays. That's like if Saquon Barkley did the hurdle where he jumps over the guy and he's backwards and he lands on the ground and someone punched the ball out and you said, that's it, Saquon, no more hurdling people. You don't get to be in awe of a certain spectacle, and then because the result goes the other way, get to be upset about that one. On the text line right now, you have a text that says they'd be lucky to get a second rounder for DK. I disagree. When you're looking at the wide receivers that have been traded, Deebo Samuel was 20 pounds overweight, and he's much older than DK. DK's basically gotten 1,000 yards every single year he's been in the NFL.
No, I think DK is a very good wide receiver. We talked about this yesterday. I think that the fair package is if you deal him to the Chargers, it's Quentin Johnson in a second. I think it's a fair package.
I don't know that I want Johnson.
I think you want a big-bodied wide receiver to go over the
yes.
top of JSN. And
I don't know that Johnson's the one that you want.
Sure.
He's had issues catching the football.
His rookie year was atrocious.
And it got better this year.
His final was 7 games. He was good. Not even like squid good. He was good.
It was better.
But is Geno Smith the guy that you want working with him there? Do you want a better quarterback there, or do you want to have something else different? Do you want to have a younger quarterback? I say all this because for the Raiders, over the next 72 hours, they better figure it the bleep out. And I don't just say this as a Raiders fan, because there's 5 different options. The decision tree right now: trade for Kyler Murray, trade for Geno Smith, trade for Kirk Cousins, sign Sam Darnold, sign a veteran backup that is going to be your stopgap guy, and go get a guy in the draft. But you've got to figure it out in the next 72 hours before free agency gets here.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have the roadmap that leads into the NFL draft, which is what, a month away?
Yeah, end of April. So month and a half. Right?
Wasn't it the 14th?
Maybe May. I don't know. I thought it was in May now.
I lose all sight of what April 24th. I knew there's a 4th.
I was going to say, okay. I'm going to be honest. When March hits, it's college basketball.
It is.
I lock in on college basketball, and then I come back around. I think that there's a lot of Seattle fans too, and maybe I'm just in love with the athleticism that is DK Metcalf, but I feel like there are a lot of things that he can bring to an offense that is successful. Right now, I don't know that I love DK at the $35 million number, which is what he wants. And if you, after conversations with him, it becomes clear that he is going to get his $35 million or not, because someone will give him $35 million.
DK?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I think a team, they'll get in the ballpark. You don't think a team will get in the ballpark?
I think he'll get 26.
And that's the thing where I think if Seattle can get him at a number that they want, or maybe you pay him a little bit extra just because it's like, hey, we want to keep you, around. I think he works best with JSN. There are a lot of Seahawks fans that say, well, hey, just go into the draft and get another great wide receiver. Ask Bill Belichick how easy that is.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of wide receivers that have talent and have value that you can go and get? Yes, but you better be darn sure. Because you can just as easily draft Jalen Reagor and the next one be Justin Jefferson. Mm-hmm. Everyone acts like it's easy.
No. I mean, also at the same time, like you see a guy like Tetairoa McMillan, who was looked at as a guy as like a top 5 pick coming into this year. I've seen him as low as 22.
Yeah, there's a lot of slide on Tet right now because he won't run.
Yeah, which
he's not fast.
I don't care. 6'5" guy that catches everything.
I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
I've got a type. We've talked about this so many times. Give me Mike Evans over basically any wide receiver's career in the history of the NFL. And I'm not saying he's the best ever, but those are the guys that I like. Give me Mike Evans. Give me Calvin. Give me the big-bodied freak that is going to catch everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's if my number one. Look, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, they're the 2 best wide receivers in the game. I'm not going to argue that. But you give me Mike Evans in his prime, no nonsense, always out there, plays through everything, stable. You don't have to put up with the BS while also catching everything thrown his way. That's the guy that I like. Now, DK isn't quite that, but he's in that same mold. Same thing with Tetairoa McMillan. Maybe not the athlete that DK is, but the man catches everything.
Right. But again, I'm always going to point to this. You know who was getting DK comparisons? Johnson.
Yeah.
And in LA.
But he doesn't catch anything.
He doesn't catch anything. Right.
Year.
You know who was drafted ahead of DK because he could run more routes than DK and he could cut better? N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry was then, hey, you're going to have to play tight end if you want to stay in the league.
Oops.
So as easy and as more valuable there are young wide receiver talent.
It's easy.
You
easy
have
to
to
miss, too.
prove that you can hit on those targets. Now, Schneider has proven with the JSN draft, with the Tyler Lockett draft, with Doug Baldwin, with DK Metcalf, that he can go and find these guys. And if that's what you think he's going to do, great. I hope that he can do that, and I hope he trades DK away then for the best return possible, right? Maybe you go and trade DK away for a bunch of picks, and you build this team
Reset.
on a
Slight reset.
Right. Because there are a lot of younger talent on this team. I'd make the argument that DK still fits in that, but let's say like that's the timeline you want to build on.
Look, you've drafted great at the corner spots. You've gotten 2 solid tackles in the draft. Like you've done well in the draft recently, even with a couple misses, which you're still doing better than most teams as it pertains to the draft.
Agreed. You better be darn sure though.
Yes, I want to say this real quick as it pertains to a former Oregon player. The Raiders are releasing their starting center, Andre James. He's the last player who played for the Oakland Raiders, still on the team, which probably opens up the spot for JPJ to move over to center. So that's at least I'd like to see that as a Raiders fan.
He's really freaking good, man.
He came on incredibly strong for the Raiders once he started getting healthy. So, all right, when we come back, we'll put a nice little bow in today's show. I had Donovan Clingan on my podcast last night. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you guys, particularly one note that just absolutely stood out. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
The Fan.
Last night, Donovan Clingan graciously took about 30 minutes to sit down and just chat with me just about some regular stuff. I got into some basketball, but I do these podcasts on Jack Ramsey's with the young guys just to kind of have fans have an opportunity to become more familiar with him and more as people. I usually spend the first 10, 12 minutes just kind of BSing with them, like building a relationship and letting people kind of get to know guys. I've done it with Anthony. I've done it with Jabari and Nasir. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. Like the list goes on and on and on. I really enjoy doing that. Just bringing a little bit of the stuff that I get to talk to these guys about off record, just hanging out in the locker room, just getting to know them. And I really just haven't had an opportunity to do that with Donovan because post game I usually have to run out and go do TV. And pregame, his workout schedule, his pregame schedule, when we're in there in the locker room, he's not always there. And I was like, what do you like doing off the floor? And he said he likes to fish. I'm like, are you talking fly fishing? He's like, no, I don't have the patience for that. He's like, I like doing deep sea fishing. And I was like, okay, cool. What are we going for? He's like, just whatever. But I asked him what he's caught. He said as far as like the biggest fish, he said some tuna, over a 300-pound Goliath grouper, and a dusky shark. And I was like, goodness. Okay, am I you trying to get out here? He's like, yeah, I just got some waders. I'm going to, get out here in the rivers and go get, and I just stopped. And I'm like, wait. Where the hell did you get waders?
From Dion.
He's 7'3", 285 pounds. Okay. That is a massive human. I'm like, we got some custom joints? And he just kind of smiled and laughed. He's like, yeah, I know they're custom. My aunt hooked me up. Because I don't know if you've ever seen waders, even when they're big, like the biggest of big, they ain't that long.
That's the overall things that keep you dry, right?
Yeah, the full sealed like rubber that goes up to your chest that you always see like the...
I've just always called them overalls, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I duck hunt. One time where I was setting my decoys out, I tripped and fell in kind of a bog, and I had my waders on, and the water was nearly frozen. Literally almost died because a bad case of
hypothermia.
Yeah, it got really bad. So I fell into this icy water, and when you have waders on and the water goes over your waders, you know what it works as? An anchor.
Keeps you down.
And brother, that was miserable. Not something Donovan Clingan's going to really have to worry about because those waders are about 6.5 feet off the ground. He's got to fall in a pretty big hole to have that happen. Also asked him if he's a dog or a cat guy. He's pro dog. So the husky is pro dog.
Love that.
He said he grew up with a Rottweiler. He's this summer one of his goals is to get a dog. He's going golden.
Ooh, like, golden doodle?
No, just retriever. But I go, no teacups. You're not going to have a little palm in your hand. He's like, nah, can't have that. All right, coming up next, the gentlemen are here. Isaac Suk. 4 hours of power. From their mouth to your ears, Isaac Suk with Prime Time. Have a wonderful weekend. Dusty will be back on Monday. Hopefully Rusty is back as well. Will Orner, thanks for stepping in, brother. Always appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon. Bye.